one. We back again, right? Welcome to the Val and Ang show. Today we got our special guest, my wife, right? Mrs. Barnaby, but also known as Jolene in the dance world as Jolene Baldini. And you know, I said I heard my echo. We're in the same house. So it's like we're hearing everything. But all good. And then now we want to talk to her and bring her on the show, talk to her about her journey because on what she accomplished throughout her life, I think is amazing, which is not easy to do as a dancer. We joke all the time that dance is really not a sport, and football is it's a brutal, but this dealing with half the injuries that the dancers come over with is like, okay, this person pulled this person broke that. I'm like, oh my gosh, give me a second. So that brought me to the thought of saying, okay, there's so much pressure, but also resilience and all the other things that come with a dancer to perform. So, with that being said, all right, let me introduce my wife, Jolene Baldini, aka Jolene Barnaby. Let's get it right. All right.
Hi, Jolene.
Here.
I am so excited. I was actually taunting Val for a little bit because I watch all of your episodes. And when you guys had your guest speaking back in July last year, I mean, we were there for it. And I said to him the other day, I was like, yes, he mentioned about dance potentially not being, a sport or whatever. But I was like, in my world, I was considered a D1 athlete with what I did. And maybe if I was able to come on, we would open and broaden, the audience a little bit as far as like the dance world is concerned. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, I mean, you said it perfectly. Whatever signifies what a sport is, what we do when we come on here is talk about a level of commitment. We talk about resilience. We talk about dedication. We talk about recovering from injury. We talk about showing up when you don't want to. So even though this might be, so to say, a platform for athletes, I think we really do want to make it a platform for people that are doing all the things that they love and what goes into that. And hearing different stories you can always take from it. I mean, I'm excited to hear your story. Val talks about it a lot with me. I've been around dancers. I know that even though someone might not have been able to be the athlete I was, I know that I couldn't be a dancer. That's for sure. I can't even,
I could dance.
Do the floss, let alone. I can't even get it right. I hit myself on the hip when I do it. So
Everybody has it in them to dance, like whether it's social dancing or if you're dancing in your bedroom to your favorite song or in your kitchen while you're baking. Everyone, it's a feel good.
yes, it is. It definitely. Val, what is like before we start? What's your go-to dance if you guys are out? Like, what do you actually do?
No, he actually
That's my
thinks that
two-step.
like he
Is
dances better than me when we're out. So this is
stop. Do you do this?
Shoulders.
well. Let me
I'm this person.
throw you back.
I'm the person that holds the wall of the bar up.
Let me throw it back. When he proposed on stage in front of 400 people dancing to Pretty Young Thing by Michael Jackson in a white blazer.
No, he didn't. That is the sweetest thing ever. Did you plan that yourself, Val?
Yeah. On a broken foot. She forgot to mention the broken foot. I dropped the weight on my foot a couple of days before.
He did. And he came hobbling out and he had the microphone and he had everyone's attention and he was singing and yep.
That's really sweet. How long have you guys been married?
Good. Dare tell her what, 12 years?
No. Let's
12,
see.
12, 13 years? 12 years.
It'll be 13 years next week.
How is that? Violet's 11?
December 28th.
2013.
Okay, 12 years. 12 years.
Can you tell I'm the numbers guy here?
Yeah, and bro, I was gonna say if you mess that up and know all your stats that you spit at me about Rutgers, we would have been talking on here.
I know
about
my
marriage.
stats. I know my stats.
That's the most important stat of your life.
Yeah.
There we go.
He's
All right,
cute.
Jolene, we're gonna let you get started about your journey. When some things that you can hit upon is like when you fell in love with dance, when you knew you were gonna take it seriously. I know you've got an awesome story about Juilliard going to the highest level there, and just start talking and we'll engage you more. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I started when I was 2. My mother, she used to work out to Richard Simmons. And back then it was on VHS and like you would have to do it at home. And it was obviously dance related exercise. And I would do it side by side with her. And one day she just looked over and she was like, I think I should put this girl in dance. Like she's keeping up with me. And because, I had some type of rhythm, she enrolled me into dance at 2 years old. I have 2 other brothers. And for the sake of all traveling to one place, she also enrolled my brothers into dance.
Okay.
So for most of our childhood, it was the 3 of us. We did competitions together. We did trios together. My brothers definitely loved it. It helped them with the sport aspect. It helped them with coordination, with speed, with memorizing plays and such. So I wholeheartedly can say that I fell in love with dance around 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
By 12 years old, I knew this was for the rest of my life. Like it was the most definite decision. I didn't have to think twice about it. Around 12 or 13 is when dancers particularly say, I'm going to really strive to make this more serious, or I'm going to stay a little bit more rec. Because at 12 years old, there's a pivot that happens. And if you want to make it more serious, you really have to commit more hours. You have to make more sacrifices. And that was just an easy decision for me. I went to my parents and I said, this is just the journey that I'm going to take. They were very supportive. They never held me back from my dream. They never held me back from any extra thing I wanted to do for dance. I was very fortunate that way. They would have to work extra in order to pay for certain things, of course. So I danced at 2 dance schools. I danced at a competitive dance school that did competitive dancing. And then I danced at a more classical ballet where I knew that I needed my foundation. So my weeks were really like 40-hour dance weeks. I would leave school. I would train. Some days I would go to both schools. I wouldn't get home until maybe 10 p.m., do homework, and go to bed around 1, and that would be on repeat. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays would be rehearsals. But like I said, that continued all the way through high school. And then the next process was obviously auditioning for colleges and realizing I did want to get a BFA, a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. That's where I wanted to go. I auditioned for numerous schools, Towson University, Point Park, Purchase, Hofstra, and obviously Juilliard, which was my dream. I wasn't putting all of my eggs in one basket, obviously. They only accept 24 dancers in their freshman class, 6 girls from the United States, 6 girls from Europe, 6 boys from the United States, and 6 boys from Europe. So it's a very intense process, and to be at that level was just a dream of mine. So what happened was I did all these auditions and I was hearing back from all the colleges, and Juilliard unfortunately doesn't tell their acceptances until May because they're going to different countries, they're touring the United States. And
That's
of
nerve
course,
wracking.
what?
That does sound nerve wracking.
Yes, and of course, your friends are getting acceptances and you want to know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Towson University was gracious enough to give me a full scholarship to attend for 4 years. So we had to put money down in order to save my spot. God forbid I didn't hear from Juilliard. And again, my parents, bless their hearts, were able to put the deposit down. So in my head, I was going to Towson. I was getting a roommate. So come to find out, the end of May, I get back then they give you the call, and my brother happened to be home and he picked up the phone, and they obviously were looking for me, and he was like, oh, well, she's at dance. Well, he hangs up with them and he calls my dance studio, and my dance teacher picks up the phone and he was like, Juilliard just called looking for my sister. Does my sister have a minute? And of course, like my dance teacher went crazy and she pulled me from class, and we wound up calling, and I found out while I was in dance class that I was accepted. And that I mean, I fell to my knees. That to be
Yeah.
one of six girls,
Wow.
it was such a blessing. So I graduated, I went to Juilliard, and now every year at Juilliard, you have to be asked back. So you're not guaranteed all 4 years at the school. Every May after your semester ends, they sit you down in a panel and teacher by teacher, professor by professor, they go around and they basically state, what you've worked on. Have you improved? Have you worked to their standards? How was, your work ethic? I mean, they go down the whole list. And at the end of the conversation, they either welcome you back for the next year or they don't. And that's the end of May. And I started with 24 my freshman year, and I graduated with 16 kids in my class.
Wow. So every year you were asked back and you went through that grueling process 4 times. Yeah,
Hmm.
3 times. Yeah.
I
Wow.
went through it 3 times.
Sounds like you're under pressure to perform. It's,
Every day. I mean, besides getting graded in your dance classes, whether the dance teacher sees fit that you're still at the level that you're supposed to be at, how do you show up for rehearsals and remembering choreography? What type of endurance do you have? I mean, every day, and I say this to my current students, every day was a job. It wasn't your typical college life. And granted, I signed up for that, but it was a job. And it started at 9 a.m. and every day went until 9 p.m. And it was a job. Like, you were
Yeah.
there being critiqued, looked at. I mean, they're fine tuning the best dancers of the world.
Hmm.
People say it's the Harvard of dance. So, of course, it's this challenging atmosphere. Let me back up for a second. We all have our free will, right? I mean, we chose this at any given point. If you didn't want that anymore, then clearly, but it was addicting. Like, it gets addicting. You see the improvement, you see the accolades, you see the reassurance, and then, you're flying high and you're just so excited and you're performing and these people are coming to see you with big names, companies, Alvin Ailey, ABT, New York City, they're all coming, they want to see. So I finished all 4 years, and my senior year, we had our senior showcase of everybody who was graduating. And in that senior showcase, you perform 2 solos. And I go back to my dorm room that night and I have a phone call on my voicemail. And it's a woman, and she's like, I just watched you in the performance. I am starting a professional dance company in New York City. I would love to meet with you if possible, and I would love for you to come to the audition. And here's my name and number. Now, I was at the point that I was going to graduate and I was ready to go back to New Jersey and give back and start teaching. I wanted to start giving back to the kids, everything. I was so uplifted by my experience. I just wanted to give back. I actually had no thought of dancing professionally. So I thought, this is going to sound really bad. I thought that it was my friends pranking me and I didn't call the woman back.
My gosh.
Now, a week later, I come back from class and the woman recalls me, leaves a message, and is like, Hi, Jolene. I'm not sure if you got my first message, but I would really like to meet with you. I'm only in the city for the next few days. And then I was like, oh my gosh, they weren't pranking me. Like, this is for real. Okay. Well, I wound up meeting up with her at the St. Regis Hotel in New York City in her penthouse. Imagine a 21-year-old
Jeez.
going into the St. Regis all the way up to the top floor. And when the elevator doors open, they open to like 24 karat gold, humongous doors to a penthouse. And you're like starstruck. I'm like, Jolene, what are we walking into? And, voila, the doors magically open. And here is this woman. And I'm in the middle of a penthouse with her, and come to find out she is the heiress of Walmart. Her grandfather was Sam Walton Laurie, and her name is Lori Walton, and so she's the heiress of Walmart, and she always had a dream to start a professional, she loved the arts, a professional dance company in Manhattan, and she was making this dream come true, and she came to the Juilliard show, and she saw me, and it was like the start of, her process. And we sat and we talked and had little like cucumber sandwiches, and I mean, it was beyond I could ever imagine. And she told me a little bit about herself. She was so down to earth. She just was literally glowing how much she wants to give back to the arts. So long and behold, we had a wonderful meeting. I go to her audition. I wind up making the company. So exactly 1 month of graduating Juilliard, I got into a professional company, which is kind of rare to like do. And we were based out of New York. We were rehearsing in Times Square. The company's name was Cedar Lake Ensemble.
Okay.
And at that time, I was 22. I wanted to save some money, and I was living with my grandfather in Paterson, New Jersey. And I was driving and commuting every day into Manhattan because from Paterson to the city, it was much closer than obviously the Jersey Shore to New York. And I got to spend some quality time with him. We bonded. It was wonderful. And so I would commute every single day. And then one day she found a beautiful carriage house on West 20. And Annie Leibovitz, do you know that famous photographer?
Yeah.
Okay. It was Annie Leibovitz's carriage house on West 26th Street. And come to find out, she wanted me to go with her to tour the carriage house. She picked me. And we went, and it was this beautiful building, all windows, like ceiling to floor windows, stunning. And she walked up to Annie and she said, I'll offer you a cash deal and purchase your carriage house. I'm standing next to her sweating because you're like 22 years old and you're like witnessing this. And Annie sold it to her. So that became our quote unquote house. That's where Cedar Lake now ran out of.
Yeah.
So we were off of West 26. We were able to tour the United States. We toured Europe. There was a period I was traveling out of a suitcase for 3-4 months. You're young, wild, and free. You're doing exactly what you want to do. You're performing all over on different stages. You're meeting different people. Not a care in the world, no responsibility. And then about 3 years in, we had some controversy with our company because most companies, first of all, the arts is rarely funded. Like it, unfortunately, unlike football or massive arenas that are filled, I mean, it's a very different audience, let's just say. And Alvin Ailey, New York City Ballet, School of American Ballet, American Ballet Theater, these companies have been around for decades and have had financial help from funders, Citibanks, I mean, millionaires that are funding them, right? Mm-hmm. And the controversy was we had our owner of our company funding us because she was the heiress of Walmart. And so the controversy started getting a little skewed because all these other major companies, it took them 20, 30 years to arrived to the moment that we were arriving in year 3 because we had Walmart funding us, so we hit newspapers, we had interviews left and right. Also, most dancers, they need to support themselves. By support themselves, they need a second job. Yes, do you want to dance 24/7 and live your life? Most are bartenders, most are hostesses. At Cedar Lake, we didn't have to do that.
Wow.
We were completely and utterly taken care of where no company member needed a second job. And then on top of that, she funded us healthcare, dental, and eye. And that was unheard of in the dance world. That was the break that was like, oh my gosh. Now, of course, the word got out. Now people wanted to audition for Cedar Lake. And now we were on TV. We were doing interviews. I was lucky enough to fly in her private jet,
No way.
which was insane. Definitely an experience. She,
Yes.
she, you would never know who she was, or she was such a loving, compassionate woman to all of us. She was just so caring in so many ways. So I danced with that company, and then I had a pivotal life moment where I said to myself, Jolene, in 5 years, where do you see yourself? And as much as I wanted to continue dancing, I was 28 years old. And I wanted to leave at the peak of my career where people were still enjoying and wanting to see me perform. I didn't want to leave, God forbid, with an injury. I didn't want to leave with them going, oh my God, is she going to get off the stage? Like, she really shouldn't be here. I wanted to leave more at the peak of my career. And I also wanted a family, and I knew that I wanted a family, and I wouldn't be able to sustain that travel life and be able to meet someone and then have a family of my own. So at 28, I gave myself that 5 year plan in my
Mhm.
head, and I said, I lived my dream. I went to Juilliard. I lived my second dream and danced professionally and met and danced and performed, and now it was time to move on. So I had my final performance, and I moved back home to Lincroft, and I started working at two different schools locally. And I turned 29 and realized it was my time to now open a business. And that's what I did. And 15 years later, am running Dance Mix Studio, and met Val when I was 30. And that kind of like took off really, really quickly.
He went all in.
We were all joke. We were all in. We were like we were married and everything like real quick. We had Violet before our 1 year wedding anniversary. So like to think back on my 5 year plan, it's when you actually really are clear with your thoughts and manifest it, it really does.
Oh, I agree.
It really does unfold. And so that's my journey. And now I'm here.
Yes.
But
Well,
what was interesting, can I just fill her in on something, babe? What was interesting was we were set up on a blind date, and the woman who set us up on a blind date, her daughters danced at my studio, but she took Valentine's like warrior woman class in the morning. So she knew him, and then she knew me. And
Hmm.
one day she was like, she comes up to me at the studio and she's like, you know, I think I just really want to set you up with my trainer. And I was like, your trainer? And she's like, yeah, he has such a love for football. He has such a love for his athletes. He has passion behind his eyes for what he does and what he coaches. And it mimics what you do with your dancers. And I think at the end of the day, ultimately, even if you get dinner, you guys have a common interest of wanting to create like the best athlete and the best dancer. And I think that you would have a lot in common. And I mean, she was right. But the second that I met him, I could see
Now,
that. I could
no
see that,
crying
and
over here. There's no
I
tears.
know.
I could see that, and I could feel that for him because our first interaction, it was listen, he got to the highest level professionally in his career, right? I got to the highest level professionally. And so there was that connection, like that sacrifice. Like he understood the sacrifices, I understood his sacrifices. And it wasn't one telling the other. It was very mutual. And she did a great job because
Yes, she was right.
here we are.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, my first question
Okay.
definitely is like just thinking, I mean, when you first started Val and you said something silly like dance isn't a sport or whatever, but what she just described of the correlation of what athletes go through and dancers go through, to me, what you went through was even above and beyond. You were under that pressure year after year. I know back in the day they didn't talk much about mental health or self-talk and all of that kind of stuff. How did you just maintain a level of confidence and reassurance that you needed to keep going and it started with you?
My parents.
Okay.
My parents definitely raised us. First of all, we're very affectionate people.
I love that. Well, you're
we're
Italian, right?
we're Italian. We're very affectionate people, but my parents definitely instilled hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the hard work, life isn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
And they instilled that at a very young age to both my brothers and myself. And I think what happened was, even on my hardest dance days, and let me preface this by saying, back, because it's different now, but back when you didn't get awarded, not everybody got a trophy, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was first, second, or third in competitions. That was sheer disappointment too. And how do you get the coping skills or the life mechanism skills to realize you just worked really hard, but you didn't walk away with a trophy? These days, everybody gets a trophy, right? It doesn't matter. Everybody gets a medal. Everybody gets a trophy. So there was life learning skills at a very young age. I was competing at 8 years old. So I would go to a competition. If I didn't win, there it was. Or if I, was at dance and had a rough day, came home crying to my mother would be like, but Jolene, this is your journey, and this is how you have to work really hard in order to get where you are. They instilled, hard work for us 24/7. There were days that my body was exhausted, like at Juilliard, exhausted. I wound up getting mono and I was out for 3 months my junior year. I couldn't even get out of bed. They had to give me like IV drips. My skin was yellow. I was exhausted, and my support system,
Yeah.
was what built me back up. I think that learning the coping skills and learning, this is going to sound silly, but how to breathe through disappointment,
Yes.
not to attach yourself to disappointment. It's hard, but it's doable. And I will say, as a dancer, there's a lot of things that creep in. Eating disorders, staring at yourself in a mirror, constantly critiquing yourself. Does this look good? Are you doing this right? Needing the reassurance. I'm a grown woman, and I look at him sometimes for reassurance, and he's like, what do you mean, Jolene? He's like, there are some, of course, the habits that creep in now and again, but the pressure is unlike anything that I have ever
I can
been
imagine.
through.
Oh,
And
what did you
now,
say? Pressure is self-inflicted. As an athlete, now I'm talking to you as an athlete. The pressure is self-inflicted, and it's because, and what I mean by self-inflicted is that you want to be great at what you're doing. So that pressure is coming from yourself because of your want to. A lot of athletes today really don't have the want to, to self-inflict that pressure, and the pressure is just them being a visionary of seeing themselves in the moment before the moment happens. So the pressure that we felt back then was, okay, I'm gonna go out and kill this because I know my routine. I'm gonna go out and kill this because I know what step I gotta take. I know what the offense and defense is gonna do. So our pressure was completely different than today's pressure. Today's pressure is easy to, I would say for them, it's probably easy to close off or quit because that's the thing to do. There is no
well,
pressure from, because now they have a crutch of different outlets of they can, instead of using mental health as a crutch, use it as a positive and understand how to prioritize their needs. So that way they don't feel that pressure.
it also comes from self-discipline, right? And I think that the certain mindset, okay, let's just talk mindset for a second. It takes self discipline to be able to gear yourself to understand that there's going to be sacrifices, and are you willing to make those sacrifices? The self discipline, you got up and you did 2 workouts a day, and you took yourself to Maine for a boarding school to be able to play, for I didn't have a social life when I was in high school. There was no parties, there was no football games, but that was
Well,
my self-discipline to get me, because I knew what my goal was,
well, yeah,
right?
that's the sacrifices that you have to make in order to achieve your goals. If you don't make those sacrifices, you're never going to achieve those goals because the little negative things seep in. And I'm not saying hanging out is a negative thing. It's just people want that different social life. You got to sacrifice your social life for later. You know what I'm saying? Do
And
do your work now. I can socialize later.
Right, but now they have Snapchat and social media, and so they're
Mhm.
seeing what their friends are doing, and then we didn't see what our friends were doing. We didn't have any connection after school. There was a landline phone and that was it, right? Or if we went to a park. But now it's like they see what they're missing out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, should I be doing that?" It's instant. They see it instantly. We may have heard it 2 days later. We may have heard it 3 days later.
Well, they got to understand they got to see their perspective. That they have to see it through a different lens than what their friends are looking at. So if I'm looking at it that, all right, I want to be the best football player I can be. So now I have to make the sacrifices. I can't pay attention to what my friends are doing. If they're hanging out at the bowling alley, if they're hanging out at this party, right? There's no reward in that. What's going to be the reward for a moment? So now I need to sacrifice my time here to go get my sleep so that way I can get up and perform. I got to make the sacrifice. Oh, they're eating pizza. I got to eat something a little bit more healthier. The self discipline through your sacrifices of what your end goal is.
And that also comes from emotional support. They need to have that emotional support, whether it's from a mentor, a coach, a teacher at school, a professor. They need that also to guide them, I feel.
That
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that emotional support. And when I think back on your story, I think about how your mother was emotionally there for you, saying to you, hey, you competed, you didn't win, but that's life, right? So you went in to say mom taught you hard work, but then mom also gave you the reality of the situation. And so we do need to offer support in the right ways as well. Like we need to support these kids, but also be real with them that you have to put in that discipline and that dedication, that commitment. So it's not always going to go your way, but that doesn't mean you quit. So that emotional support is so important to even let them express themselves. Like imagine if like you guys both have the most beautiful children I ever seen. Clearly, look at the two of you. So like,
Thank you.
you
Thank
know,
you, man.
I guarantee you're welcome. I guarantee you that those children are going to know how to use their words of what they're feeling and what they're thinking because of, well,
Well,
first of all, Jolene, how you were raised, Val, how you were raised, your mom gave it to you. They're going to know how to express themselves. And if there's a gift we can give these kids, it's the emotions around what they're feeling and thinking, but then the reality of, let's go. You can feel it. Let's go.
Right.
that's where I was going. It's like we say emotional support. I like to just switch it and say real support because if you keep it real
Yeah.
with these
Why does
kids,
the word emotional scare you?
because it's like if you throw your emotions into you throwing your feelings, and people get sensitive.
Emotions aren't feelings. You emotion.
Sensitivity. Listen, it's sensitivity, and if you're sensitive to things, people can find ways to
Walk
throw
on.
parts at you and then try to step on you. Oh
Right.
shit! You try that shit over here, you getting your ass torn
So
up.
Yeah, but you can be sensitive and feel that emotion, but
No,
then
you
you
can
have
have
people in
your
your life.
emotional feelings, but it has to be emotion through passion, right? And that emotion is like I'm an emotional person when I'm out in that field or I'm in my element. Outside of my element, you won't even know if I'm in the damn building if you don't see me, right?
How is
Because
he
I'm
at
quiet.
home, Jolene?
I'm quiet. Half the time they won't know if I'm in the house unless I'm jumping up and down. Right?
Stop.
I'm telling you, half the
no,
time.
you
Listen,
know,
listen,
obviously,
listen,
you know what makes
listen.
him emotional is his children, right? And
I'm
seeing the
talking
world through
sport.
their eyes is really
No, no.
is really shifting him. Really
No,
shifting him.
because
However,
I'm a protector, right? And what it is that you know for me within sports, my emotion was my passion that was out on that field, right? And it was like a switch that went off, right? By before I hit that white line, it's kill or be killed. I'm drumming all this stuff up in me. I'm making up all type of shit in my head coming down, right? And as I'm walking there, I'm like, okay, it's game time. It's game time, and I did it every single day this, right? Anything that had to do with competition. When we're in there, we're in that weight room and we're training those 6 a.m.s on a Friday morning, and you got that buzzard yelling at you. You have the want to and the will and the passion. It was all passion. I hated every second of training. I wouldn't lie. I hated every second of it. But I turned that into my passion. It was my pain to let out. Right. Every so And what I'm trying to install on these athletes today is, and even when her dancers come over, you got to express your pain, right? Whatever, like you say, emotions. Right? Dancing is a very that she got to feel the emotion. I can't stand next to her and watch dance because she's in every movement, and I'm just like, I go way over there. For me, I got to talk to them through my lens of getting them to understand. Listen, turn your pain into passion, right? And I promise you, you'll reap those benefits in the long run, right? But you got to be passionate about what you're doing. And if you get sensitive, you'll be the first person to crawl underneath the rug or crawl underneath the damn rock and hide because it's hard.
Okay, but
I'm
can I
saying
just,
so now you're getting lost. You're getting lost and hung up on
There's a raise your
little
hand.
things. The little things. You're getting caught up on the little things, and the little things are deteriorating you, and now it's going to become a bigger thing. As opposed to saying, well, why are you riding me? Because I want you to be great. So fix what I'm writing you about. Because if you're not going to fix it, right, the big thing ain't going to matter. We're never going to get to the big.
okay,
Let Jolene speak.
so let me in dancers terms.
I got it.
And Valentine has said this numerous times. He is on the field, and like he just said to you, something clicks. He has told me numerous times he's on the field, he sees red, he goes, right? He literally sees red and he goes. That's the protector in him. That's him not falling to defeat. As a dancer, we have to feel everything from the tip of our heads to the bottom of our toes. There's no speaking in dance. Our bodies have to interpret every feeling, every emotion. You want to be able to, as a performer, break through that fourth wall to have everybody in that audience get the story that you're telling through your body, get the emotion that you're telling through your body, right? Otherwise, they're going to go and watch a dancer that looks constipated in the face and there's nothing. So the difference is that as dancers, we have to feel everything so deeply in order for it to penetrate out of our body. And there's a saying that you have to feel it seven layers deep. There's 7 layers of your skin, right? The epidermis all the way down. And you have to be able as a performer to get down to that bottom level to dig out the genuine feeling, not the put on, not the fake, but that genuine feeling that you have to shine for thousands of people to understand what you're doing. So when I say emotional support at the end of a performance, we're emotionally drained. Like I'll never forget, I was in a performance when I was 21 years old. And at 21, I hadn't even had a boyfriend yet. I hadn't loved other than my siblings and my parents. I haven't been in love. But I had to go out and I had to protect being in love. And I had to actually say to myself, and like, it's like an actor, like you have to go through, like, how would you do this step to show you're in love? How would your face be? How would you this? And then by the end of the show, I had to hit with the disappointment that the love was no longer existing. And then you actually have to
That's
crumble
why
in
you
your
went to
body.
Juilliard. That's why you went to Juilliard. It's one
Okay.
of the top acting schools out there, if not the top acting school out there.
But I didn't take acting lessons at Juilliard. I took dance lessons at Juilliard.
But in
So
those dance lessons, though, they taught you how to show your emotion.
correct, but you have to be so vulnerable, Valentine. You have to be so vulnerable that you're exposing yourself from your head to your toes while you're performing. You're at the most vulnerable spot in your life where you see red and you went and it was like this like massive like
It's
surge
completely
with
different. It's
no
two completely
emotion.
different
That's
scenarios.
what I'm saying, with like no emotion. So yes,
Everything's
dancers.
emotion. In between the lines is all emotion. Right? Like you hit somebody, the veins that pop out of your neck, right? Like that emotion. That's emotion. That's not
Val,
right.
Okay. But do you
Game
see where
over.
now the difference is? Do you see
yes,
like as a
there's.
as a dancer we have to offer them emotional support. It's a very vulnerable situation,
Well, I
right?
think all athletes need it. I think me and Val come from a different perspective on that. Well, first of all, it's the man and the woman, like what we feel compared to what they feel. I was just reading a book about men do and women be, right? Like we have to,
Very fair.
yes. And so
Well, I read a book about as a man thinketh, he
he
does
does
it.
it. Yes. So same concept. As a man
Mm-hmm.
thinketh, he does it. As a woman thinks it, she has to believe it. And
Yes.
so when we are coaching female athletes, and some male athletes, which we should give them this space to feel and think so that they can get to the level of passion they need to believe it first in order for them to see red. So I love your concept and how you're talking about these emotion, because if you think about the 7 layers that you talked about, which was extremely interesting, is to be in the zone and the flow in a performance mindset. You have to be in touch with each level of that. Yeah,
And
it's
then and
beautiful.
then on top of that, there are male dancers, right? There are male performers, and you could be partnered with them, obviously, and then you have to make that connection with that person.
Yes.
So it's very complicated.
Yes.
Well,
I
now I'm being serious. The best way to sum it all up in every sport, there's this own emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sitting here thinking, of every athlete that I deal with, and just thinking about like my guy, Chris Goddard, his emotion, right, when it comes to being a golfer. You got to be patient within certain points, even as a tennis player, as a dancer, right? And it's waves to it. So I totally get where you're coming from, and as football, the adrenaline is going, but we get that 4 to 6 seconds where, that adrenaline rush, and then we have to find it quickly again. So it's like it's there within every play. Basketball is it's a constant movement. Same thing with
Well,
the boys and girls. But every sport has this emotional connection,
yes,
emotional pressure, right?
right.
You
And
hold that certain pressure in your own way. So I get
and
it.
the bottom line is every athlete can understand those 2 seconds before going out,
Mm-hmm.
or the nerves or the anxiety before it, and the pressure of trying to perform at the highest level all the time. So that's the bottom line.
Well,
That's
well,
what's cohesive about the situation.
Well, I think now at the highest level, every athlete, and I'm not talking about like being at the top pinnacle point of your career, because what these athletes, today's athletes, especially today's youth athletes, young, they got to understand wherever they are, they got to play to their highest level then, right? And then there's always going to be another ceiling to break through until they reach the highest potential level of their pinnacle career. So for us, it was the NFL, and then it was just dancing professionally, right? So from our 9-year-old son to getting to the next level, everybody has a ceiling to break through because they have to learn how to perform and develop those skill sets. Every step. Just seeing some of your dancers, right, from the little ones, right, and now having our own daughter, she's dancing and she's starting to find her pathway, into understanding herself, but also understanding her passion behind what she wants to do, as well as every athlete. So their highest level is where they are within that moment, and then
Well,
next one.
but I will also say it is much harder in today's world for dancers, like, period. And I say it all the time that if I was,
Well,
trying to go through with what I was doing like years ago, the standard has changed, the mentality has changed, the level of dancers. I mean, you have so many different outlets, and one of the outlets, the dancers should be training now physically. Like, back then I only danced. I didn't do any conditioning. I didn't do any strength training. Nowadays, the dancers, it's a must. They should be. They should be doing PT. They should. I mean, it's just a whole different situation and so much harder. Yes, I'm not taking away with what you're saying. Like, the mentality is there, but it's
they want to
a
be
much
considered
different
athletes,
world.
and
What?
I think dancing is a physical form of a sport. I'm not saying it's not, because I see all the injuries and all that stuff, but the injuries don't make it a sport. When I was a strength coach at Rutgers, actually one of my groups that I had was the dance team. And the shit I put them through, I made them run stairs, I made them lift weights, right? Like the bases, everybody had to get in that form of strength training as well as mobility. So understanding how to work with a dancer is crucial, because you can't train them like you train
No.
a football player. You got to give them a combination of, a basketball player to a figure skater.
Well, yeah, you have to activate different muscles. Like,
Yeah.
our hips and our hamstrings are different.
I do want to say this. I put in my phone to get the definition of sport. According to the dictionary, is an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Dancing is a sport,
Thank
Val.
you.
I
Mic drop.
agreed. I agreed. I listen. I wasn't retracting my statement. I said dancing was a sport because
Okay.
the amount of dancers that come over my shoulder. I got a baseball player with a torn labrum.
I
Oh,
know, but
I,
just because they come over for injury doesn't mean that
Yes.
I
that's
know. You
what's
ever see a dancer
happening.
trying to run,
We're still
baby?
considered an athlete, even if we
Yes.
don't come to
I
you to
know
see an
that. Hence the
injury.
reason why. Hence the reason why I make the dancers when they come over, they run. Talking about so it's working different types of muscles. They don't
Yes.
like it. They don't like it, but I don't care what they don't like. You got to do it. Either
Agreed.
you gonna do it or you're not. You
All
gonna do
right.
it?
I have a couple more questions to just actually to
Yeah.
go along with the emotion
Okay.
of it is what do you want your daughter to take from your journey? What's the biggest thing you want her to take?
You're gonna
You
make
want me
me
to answer
cry.
that? You heard answer that. No, I'm
Not
joking.
you, Val. This is
I'm
for your
joking.
wife.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, first, obviously, my, I mean, she was dancing in my stomach before she was born, right? Because
Yes.
I was teaching pregnant, and the first couple months of her life, she was in the studio with me all the time. And I vowed to myself that I would not put her into dance until she showed the interest that she wanted to dance. It wasn't going to be something, Valentine and I say this all the time to our children. Actually, just because this was a career path that mommy and daddy did does not mean that this is the career path for the two of you. And I will say this, I digress for a second. Children are 1,000% their upbringing and their atmosphere. Dallas and Violet grew up in the gym and the studio. I mean, they were doing Val's warm up when they were like 2 and 3 years old. Dallas was pushing boxes. So I vowed that. And she came to me. She was sitting and watching a dance rehearsal one day, and she was 2, and she said, "Mommy, me." And I said, "This is, you want to try?" And she shook her head with her big eyes. I see it very differently, in a different lens. I have to put the mommy hat away and the teacher hat. I think that's the most challenging part right now. Some days teaching her, I don't know anything about dance.
Mhm.
Because I am her mom, and same goes for Val too. Dallas sees him as dad, right? Not so much coach, right?
Except for that vocabulary change.
However, I see it through a different lens. I see a lot of hardships that I obviously endured. I didn't have the dancer body. I never had the dancer body. I had to push myself through that all the time, and I had to work really hard. I wasn't born with like the greatest flexibility or the feet. So for her, as long as her heart is where she stands, as long as her heart is certain on where she's standing and she is confident in where she's standing, I think that I would be the most content, because at the end of the day, you are only you only want happiness for your child, right? And you want them to also, I mean, you want them to excel in what they're great at, right? And I think as parents, we want to be able to pull out, whether it's drawing or swim or track, whatever it may be, you want to be able to pull that out and show them that they can. But as long as she's confident where she's standing, I also realize that she will have her own journey
Yes.
with dance. But for now, Valentine and I, we just have to guide them, right?
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we're putting them, I'm going to say this, all my dancers at my studio, I think of them as my children.
Mhm.
I always say my kids, my kids, my kids. And the same for him and his athletes. He's always, our job is 24/7. We'll get a text Saturday morning at 6 a.m., or I'll have someone in audition on a Sunday and she'll text me. We say to each other now, we have to pour back into our own children.
Yeah.
They're 11 and 9. They're at the age where now we have to facilitate and start pouring back into them, because
They're
we see
grown.
such, they're grown. They're not,
Most of them are in years right
they're
now.
not babies anymore. So I think that's where we're at right now.
I love it. It's beautiful. So Val, one more question for you. What is the best quality you love about Jolene after hearing her story and marriage?
Well, I love this question.
Let's go.
To that question, is Denzel in the house?
I didn't put that on your sheet.
No, you did not. Well,
I would like to hear the
just
emotional side of you. Our athletes
well,
love it.
just the passion that she shares for her expertise, but she carries that through life. And I learned that first and forehand. That she's passionate about everything that she does, and she truly does love dance. That's the same way she loves, the people that love her, and she just carries that all the time. So her passion for just doing what she does and just being herself. That's one of the beautiful things about her. That she just continues to keep growing in that industry, and even when it gets rough, the conversations that we have, I'm just like, all right, well, me, shrug it off and throw it to the back, where she'll sit there and dwell on it, and because she cares, you know, everybody has their own ways of caring about things. She'll sit there and she'll try to figure it out right there and then, and she won't leave it. That's the passion in her. That's the love for what she has to do, and it's like when we get into our disagreements, I better go outside in the garage because there's lots of door, because she's going to follow me and we're going to have the conversation.
Well, that's
There's
a good
nothing
thing.
wrong with it. Close your mouth. It's true, right? Because she wants to solve it right there and then.
You should solve it right
You
then
should,
and there.
Val.
I know that's not a bad thing. That's what I'm saying. Right? Where me,
Okay, last question is, how does she make you a better man?
So she keeps me on my toes. It's never a dull moment, and she allows me to go be me. I'm here, I'm there. She holds the fort down. She does what she needs to do, and and that's what part of being a wife and a loving wife does. You know, and she, what?
Is it really hard to express feelings sometimes?
I think it's a little hard for him. I'm
No, I
learning
mean,
a little bit about him today.
You're getting a little anxious. It's okay. You
who's
can
getting
just
it?
say that I'm the love of your life. Go ahead.
I said that 3 times already. You want me to say 5 more? Right? God damn it.
Jolene, I asked my husband why he never tells me I look pretty. He goes, if I said it once to you, I don't ever have to repeat it again.
That's him.
Big
That's
fat.
him.
So
That's him.
I see
That's
something
him.
very similar here. You and I
That's
should
him.
talk.
He's like, why do you need the
Listen, just like
reassurance?
the
I said
way,
it one. I don't
listen,
repeat myself.
no way will ever break the same way. Right? It'll always break on different levels. So if we say it once, we got to ride that wave and we're good. We're rolling.
He's a provider and a protector.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Look
We'll
at
get
his
him there.
face. Look
Don't
at
worry.
his face. You know who's going to get him there? You want to know who?
His kids.
Violet.
Yes.
Get me
Oh,
where?
yeah.
Get me where?
Violet. I have said it since the second she was born. Violet is going to get him there. She'll go up to him and cuddle up, and he'll be like, Violet, and she'll be like, no, no. And then done. He's done. He's done. And she looks like him, so that's
it.
That's
Oh,
it.
so beautiful. I love
Well,
it.
thank you for
Yes.
everything.
Thank you for sharing. And, I'll continue to work on him too as we help each other. He makes me more stern and less sensitive. And I think I definitely ask him questions that he ponders. And then he'll send me a text like 3 days later. And I'm like, I got him. I got him on that one. I got him.
Figure it out.
Yep. So,
I'm gonna that.
yes.
Into what?
Don't worry.
I'm
We'll get
gonna
there.
hold him to that.
Yeah, it's all
Little
about connection.
Valentine.
If that's what I preach and that's my standard, my partner over there in this Val and Ang show is going to have the same thing. I'm working out because of you.
I got.
See, listen,
I
he
got
has
20 different compartments of this brain. Right? So yeah, I can
That's
tell
your
you
limiting
one
belief.
thing that I'm gonna put that bit way over here. I think about it later, and it makes sense when I make sense of it. As they say, don't walk. I walk to my own drum beat.
He has taught me to let things roll off.
100%.
Yeah.
Because if you try to carry every burden, it gets heavier and heavier and hevier. So why would I want to carry everybody's burden?
Well, welcome to womanhood. It's a whole different conversation.
It's just that person that's a provider and a protector and somebody that cares. I listen to everybody's shit. But if I carry everybody's shit, sooner or later, I'm gonna be drowning in it. I listen to it, I take it, I compartment it. If I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the answer right there and then, I can't answer you because I don't fucking know it.
Got
Right?
to
That's what
bleep
we
that
say.
one out. All right, awesome.
Bleep,
Jolene, thank
bleep.
you. And
Have a
I
great
will
holiday with your
have a great
family.
holiday. Yes, don't hang up yet. I'm just going to stop the recording. You got to stay on until I tell you.
I'm sure.